Welcome to the Riding in the Weeds podcast, where we tackle life's inevitable challenges, from navigating mountain bike trails to overcoming business hurdles and forging deeper connections with pets and people. It's easy to find yourself tangled in the weeds, but we're here to help with insights and strategies that'll get you out of the weeds. Our goal is to boost your performance in both sports and everyday life by sharing essential skills that we've learnt along the way. Through tales of our entrepreneurship journey, thrilling biking adventures, and fostering meaningful relationships, your hosts, Natasha, Lockey, and Ginny, Branden, will guide you on a journey that's not only enjoyable, but also inspiring. Join us to gain confidence that you need to navigate the trails of life. Welcome to Riding in the Weeds, episode 50.
Woohoo! Party!
Party!
Yay!
So we are making this episode all about the idea of celebrating, because we are taking a moment to really celebrate this milestone for ourselves and also dig into the topic of celebrating. What is celebration? Why is it important? And when we don't do it, why does that end us up riding in the weeds? So this is for you. If you find yourself just getting to a milestone, moving through it, and going to the next one, and you never really feel like you're achieving anything, you never really feel like you're getting anywhere in your life because you don't stop to celebrate. If you are somebody who doesn't stop to take a moment to really appreciate the fact that you got stuff done in a day, that you achieve something that you've been striving for, and instead you're like, yeah, but stay tuned and enjoy this episode with us as we celebrate our 50th episode and talk about how we can celebrate more. And when you bring more celebration into your life, life is more fun. All right, we've got our animal communicator expert, Ginny, with us as always. I'm here, Natasha. I'm a performance coach, all about making it so that you have more fun in your life and on your bicycle. All right, Ginny, tell us about celebration.
Yeah, this one's tricky. When we started talking about this episode, actually, I guess it was a week or two ago when we realized what had happened.
Woo-hoo!
Woo! That, I noticed a while ago that I have a tendency to do this funny thing. If I see somebody and they say, hey, how you doing? I will frequently only say fine, because I don't want to say that I'm doing better than they are in the moment. And I think this is a cultural thing. I know not everyone does it, but I think this is something that is a little bit like a cultural sort of thing around not wanting to outshine someone else or to be doing better than someone else. And I don't really know if it's just a not wanting to have someone feel bad because they aren't doing as good as I am, or like what the real motivation behind it is, but it's like a real thing. It's a real thing of not wanting to be better than someone else in that moment. And that's kind of messed up.
Well, what I find really interesting about this is I'm kind of the opposite. And the whole reason I started Betty Go Hard way back in like 2000, I felt like we were not given, as women in particular at that moment, it was all about action sports. And what I noticed was there was not an opportunity to see other women doing amazing things, which meant that it's really hard to do something when you're not seeing other people do it. And so I wanted to create a place where women could celebrate their achievements, because when we show up and shine and celebrate who we are and what we've done, no matter what it is, then we actually give others permission to do the same. So we're very quick to put down what we're doing. You know, oh, you went mountain biking, you started mountain. Oh yeah, but I'm not very good. I'm just a beginner. No, you went mountain biking. I've never mountain biked. That's really cool. We're always very quick to downplay the achievement when the other person in the room is going, oh my goodness, and they're trying to celebrate you, and you're busy trying to actually downplay it, which is, I think, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And for me, I actually really do work consciously that when someone asks me how I am, to try and come up with a positive. And what I've noticed, especially this time, it's actually like the first time we came back from Mexico, it was a little weird. The second time we came back, people were like, oh, okay, you come back. You didn't leave. Like, you're actually Rosalindas, you live here. And people celebrated the fact that we had returned, which was like, oh, I can celebrate the fact that I've returned. And then people really want to know the experience that we've had because they're kind of living vicariously through us. And then I want to know the experience that they had while I was gone because I'm living vicariously through them. I'm generally ready to be like, oh, you know, life is tough, I'm dealing with all these things. But when someone asks me how I am, I try and find something positive and something good to tell them because I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I want them to think that I've got good stuff going on and my life isn't in the poop the whole time. Yeah. So it's fascinating to me that we have these two completely different takes on this subject.
Yeah. I think some of it is exactly what you're saying, that culturally we don't necessarily feel like we have permission to celebrate, and or our immediate reaction is, but I could have done it better. Yeah, but. Like, yeah, we hit 50 episodes. Yeah, but we don't have 500 followers that listen religiously and leave us comments every episode. We're quick to say there's something else that I should have done better. I'm not good enough. I think culturally as women, this is more of an issue than it may be with men, but it's very normal in our culture and society. Like, this is just what we do.
I think it really does come down to the environment that you grew up in to a very large degree of how much you celebrate or feel that you can celebrate, like the family environment and where you were. And I say this because before we jumped on, I was telling Ginny a story about this little girl that I was teaching a private biking lesson with. And she did something and I was like, yeah, let's celebrate. And she looked at me, she's like, I don't celebrate. And I was like, well, why not? I'm like, over here, we celebrate because you just did something that previously you couldn't do. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. We'll move on. And she was maybe 10. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, nope. With me, we celebrate. And, you know, Ginny's kind of like, well, I wonder where that came from. Like, who told her she couldn't celebrate?
It had to come from somewhere.
It has to come from somewhere, right? And so that's where I'm going to say that I feel like it maybe more of a microcultural thing than a macro. You can probably see it if you look into cultures a little bit more. But let's look at India. They're always celebrating. They have a wedding and it goes on for like
days.
Days. And I'd love to go to an Indian wedding because, oh my goodness, they have so much fun. My husband loves listening to chanting music because it is just so awesome. And they're just celebrating being alive on a daily moment by moment basis. And then in our Western culture, we're all over here being like, oh yeah, no, I did this thing, but it wasn't really a big deal. Don't want to make anyone feel bad around me. And then again, I think it gets dialed down depending on where your parents came from, where your grandparents came from. You know, the struggle is real. We've got to bond together, you know, when misery loves company versus celebration loves company. I'm pretty sure celebration loves company more than misery loves company. So,
yeah, so why don't we do it? Like, what's up with that?
Well, let's go back to the year but. Because there is always, and we've been talking about this for the last 2 episodes, is that we have not met the ideal. Yeah, I lost that 10 pounds. Yeah, but I still have 10 more pounds to lose. Yeah, but I'm not as ripped and as fit as that person. Just met that goal of getting to the top of the mountain without putting my foot down, without stopping. Yeah, but when I did it with stopping, I literally got there 10 minutes faster. And I used to do this with mountain biking, actually. I would put my punk rock music on and I would give her and then I would die. So my climb up this one trail, it's like 1,500 feet straight uphill. And I would just be like, gangbusters. And then I would stop, like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. And then I would go again, and then I would stop and have a heart attack. So like getting to the top of the trail without stopping was just not possible. But I'd do it pretty fast. So time, I was meeting that goal, but I wasn't meeting the cleaning it goal. And then I put on like an audiobook, and I rode to the top listening to a fantasy novel one day. I did not stop, and I did it in the same amount of time. And so it's like, okay, well, now I can celebrate that. But my point being that we've always got something else we could get better at. Yeah, I got to the top without stopping. Yeah, but I did it in the same amount of time, even though I didn't stop. So like now I've got to get better. My next goal is, so if we're not measuring that progress, if we're not stopping at the end of the day and going, what are my 3 wins for the day? Yay me. Check it out. I got there. Now, what am I going to do tomorrow?
Yeah. I think it's as much psychological as anything, and we tend to fake ourselves out of it. We tend to trick ourselves out of celebrating. Like, oh, well, I can't celebrate because it's not perfect, or it's not fast enough, or I'm not good enough, or I could have done it better, even though you got there in one piece. And we don't just allow ourselves to relish in that moment. And there's no benefit to being a martyr about it. Somehow wallowing in our own suffering over whatever we just struggled through and not celebrating, there is no benefit to that whatsoever. And I think it's also challenging to celebrate when, as both of us tend to try and work on ourselves and our well-being and our bodies and health. So what do you do to celebrate when you don't do the things, you don't subscribe to the things that our culture says are ways that you celebrate? So what do you do then?
I actually had this very real experience when I gave up sugar. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't eating anything that was bad. I didn't eat cheese. I was on this, like, can I not do this for 6 weeks? And one day I'm sitting there and it's Friday. And I'm like, how do I know that it's Friday when every day is the same? Every day I get up, I do some work, I go for a bike ride, I do some exercise, I watch some TV, I go to sleep. But on Friday, I used to go to the neighbor's house and have happy hour and eat some bad food and drink a whole lot of wine. And that was like celebrating, yay, it's Friday. And then Saturday I would get up, I'd do some work, I'd go for a bike ride. Like, I was living in Groundhog Day. But I knew that I was celebrating Friday because I got to eat some bad food and drink wine. And even like getting a bag of chips, like whatever it was. And I was like, I got nothing. And because work is biking, celebrating isn't going for a bike ride, because I do that all the time anyway. And I literally sat there for a little while going, well, isn't this interesting? How do you differentiate one day from the next when what you associate with celebration, you're not allowed to do?
I think it's something that has to be answered on a personal level, because each person has things that feel indulgent or feel luxurious. I think those are 2 words that I would use to describe things that I would want to use as celebrations. So what can you do that feels indulgent or luxurious in a way that's not going to set you back from your goals or compromise the decisions that you've made that you feel are central to your values, like not drinking or not having sugar? Those are the first go-tos in our culture and society for things to party with. I'm sure if you randomly Google what to celebrate with, the top things are going to be cake and alcohol.
Yep, it says right here, celebrating is the act of honoring an achievement, anniversary, or special occasion. It often involves social and cultural activities such as music, food, and dancing. There are many ways to celebrate depending on what is being celebrated, the traditions of the culture, and personal preferences. The key to celebrating is to have fun, express joy, and create lasting memories. It does not say self-care. Celebration can be taking a bath. Celebration can be meditating. Celebration can just be giving yourself the space to sit down and read a book. For myself personally, to master the act of celebration is to master creating moments of self-care and allowing time and space to rejuvenate myself. And as much as allowing that, like, turn the computer off and go and just be. But I don't know how to just be. So therefore, where's my glass of wine? Where's the food? As you were saying just before we jumped on, we really need to schedule a dinner date where we both order our favorite food and we jump on and we have dinner together, which would be me having lunch and you having dinner. Yeah, for us, celebrating is just spending some time together. And that's pretty indulgent and something that we really enjoy doing. So finding time for someone that you really care about and love spending time with, that's a celebration.
Yeah. For me, I like to take a bath. I like to soak in a tub once a week. It's just part of my self-care. It's part of what makes me feel good. But for me, being indulgent would be buying some bath bombs or salt soak type stuff. Spending a little extra money and buying something that feels really indulgent. So I can take an activity that I already do that's part of my self-care and then make it a little bit extra special. When we go to the beach, we stay at my in-laws' house and they have a soaking tub in one of the bathrooms. So I'll go get in a really big bathtub. And that is really nice to me to actually have like room to stretch out in a tub and sit there and soak. So even things that we've decided are part of our norm, like how can you take that thing and then make it like a little extra special or extra indulgent, extra luxurious in the moment? Like even taking a walk in nature, like, yeah, you're out on the trail all the time, but when was the last time that you just wandered along a little stream, just picking at rocks or wandering along and just chilling and enjoying that moment rather than getting from point A to point B? I think that's the simplest way to find ways to celebrate, is to look for ways you can take things you like doing and then make them a little extra indulgent. Even taking that downtime, like technically taking breaks should be part of your self-care anyway, but sometimes after a big goal or a push through to something, taking some extra time can be a way to add some celebration in that would be extra special outside of your normal routine.
And I love this tangent where our conversation has gone, because I think that's exactly it. It takes 30 seconds to really ground in and anchor in a positive moment. And I think when we think of celebration, it's like, well, it's our wedding anniversary, but we have no money and we can't afford to do X, Y, Z. That's okay. You can actually create celebration out of very small, exactly what you were just saying. We were celebrating our anniversary. We got married on top of a mountain. And so we go snowboarding every day. We lived at the mountain, and that was possible for us. My husband doesn't drink. No point taking a bottle of champagne to the top of the mountain and celebrating. So we bottle of like the $5, $6 specially flavored bubbly water, and then went and bought some like really expensive artisan chocolate. I mean, it was $7 for a box of 4 chocolates. And then that's when we went and sat at the spot where we got married on the mountain and drank our bubbly water and ate our chocolates. We were just snowboarding. We had spent less than $20, and that was all we needed to do. And then we made it a tradition. So we didn't need to go out for a fancy dinner. We didn't need to do anything else. We could actually just take the thing that we were going to go and do anyway, snowboarding, and just take a moment to sit at that spot. And it was so funny because sometimes it would be in the middle of a storm and we would try and stay there for as long as possible. One time the mountain was rock solid ice and we were on top of this powder field, which is clearly not a powder field. And we go to get up and we're like, so do we go back the safe way or we drop in? And we dropped in. We regretted every moment of it. However,
and now you have a memory.
Every single one of those moments that we did it, we have a memory around doing it. So we created a memory which creates the celebration, which anchors in the fact that that happened.
Yeah.
I think that's what celebration is anchoring, throwing out those anchors so that when you're having a bad day, when you are in the middle of a struggle, you can go backwards to that anchor, or you can throw that anchor forward into how you're going to feel, and you can pre-celebrate. So how am I going to feel at the end of today when I've finished editing the podcast? How am I going to feel at the end of this bike ride when I am home, warm because it's raining or whatever? How do I bring myself out of the struggle I'm in right now and future forward into the celebration of how it's going to feel when you've completed whatever it is that you are resisting? I think can also really help us from getting sidetracked and stuck in the weeds and stuck in the struggle, which really is what our podcast is all about. We get stuck in the struggle because we haven't celebrated getting out of it the last time, and we're not celebrating how it's going to feel when we get out of it this time. And so we just start feeling like, what's the point?
Yeah. And I think that's where it's so important to celebrate regardless of whether there's more to achieve. When you make it to a milestone, it's important to celebrate that moment in time and that achievement and not worry about the rest of the stuff that you still have to do or that still needs to be done. And
if your heart is beating, there should always be more.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're not really here living.
Yeah.
And you're definitely not listening to this podcast.
Well, and I think you can easily say that if your heart is beating, then it's worth celebrating that there is more.
That's actually something I've been really working into lately as well, is in times of really feeling like nothing is working and I'm not achieving any of the ideals that I want to be achieving, I stop and I say, okay, I'm healthy, I'm strong, my relationship is good, I have an adorable dog, I get to camp in nature, I get to live in cool places, so the business might not be doing as well as I want it to be doing. That is actually the only thing in my life that's not damn awesome. So taking a moment to actually celebrate everything that is awesome in my life. And when you look around at all of the struggles that are going on in this world, I read something the other day and it said if you have a roof over your head and food on the table and a job that you're making some money from, celebrate because you are in the 5% of the world right now. And I was like, that's a really good perspective. And I have been in that place ever since I read that. And it's not it could be so much worse. It's look at all these things that I get to celebrate on a daily basis that are going really well. Yeah, there's some stuff that's not. That can sit over on the shelf for a minute.
Yeah. And I think that when you stop and look at it, for me personally anyway, almost everything I have is something that I wanted at one point in time. And if I don't remember that there was a time where I was struggling, wishing I had what I have now, then that's when the not good enough comes up, because you're always looking at what's not good enough and not recognizing that so much of what you have is things you wished for and that you wanted at one time. And it's not to say that you should ignore the things that are bad, or that the rest of the 95% of the world that doesn't have those basic needs met, that they have it worse and therefore you should feel bad about it. You can still celebrate where you are while recognizing there's more places to go and acknowledging that you have come so far. Most people that I know of, if you really stopped and actually examined things, the amount of distance you have covered in the years that you have been working on things is huge. And so often we just lose sight of that because we're stuck in the day to day, the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day, and the next goal, the next thing, the next thing. This isn't working. Like you said, when your business is struggling, that can very easily become your entire world. And all that you're aware of, all that you're thinking about, and nothing else registers at the time. But yet, like you said, you get to do some things that there are so many people that would love to be able to do.
Absolutely. Well, and as you were talking, I was thinking, like, how disempowering is it if you've got an ideal of where you want to be? So let's say I want to be an epic mountain biker. If you find out that the person that you look at and think, like, they're your inspiration, I want to be able to ride my bike like them, and I'm sure when they ride their bike, they don't have any of these thoughts, and they are always awesome. What would you think if you found out that they actually struggle as much as you do? Or Taylor Swift. We're all looking up to her. It's amazing what she has achieved in the last year. If I found out, and this goes for any superstar, when you find out that somebody who has achieved fame and fortune and all these things you think would make you so happy and solve all the problems that you have, and you find out that they're miserable, like, that just is the most disempowering. Or there's so many coaches that pitch you got all the success and you have the perfect husband and the perfect children and you've got the big house and you've got the great job and you got all the money and you're exactly where you wanted to be and you're not happy. For anyone who hasn't gotten to exactly where they want to be yet, and they find out that there's not happiness at the end of that rainbow, that's not helpful. What we want to think is that the people who are where we want to go, that they're celebrating and having a really good time and they are enjoying every single moment. Tay-Tay better be enjoying every single moment of what she has achieved right now. And if she's not celebrating on a moment by moment basis, then I'm not really sure, right? Like,
what do we do then?
What do we do then? So yeah. To not celebrate is really disempowering to anyone who's behind you on this journey.
Yeah. I'm reading a book called Happy Money right now, and it's actually fascinating because a little bit of what you're talking about is exactly what a lot of scientific research and studies have shown, is that the cliche is money doesn't buy happiness. And it's very true because a lot of it has to do with your mindset and how you handle things. And we have the choice to be able to celebrate, and we can choose where to put our focus and where to look when we need inspiration. And just because someone has what we think of as success doesn't mean that they feel any better on a daily basis than we do ourselves. And that, I think, is internal work. It is an internal project, but we can choose where to put our focus and what we are going to decide we're going to celebrate on a consistent basis, on a day-to-day basis. That's one of the things that I think separates good people from great people. And there are a lot of people that have fame, there are a lot of people that have wealth who aren't happy, and who I wouldn't want to be in their shoes for a day, even though they practically have an open checkbook, because their life isn't good in the way that I would value, because they're still struggling. And it doesn't really matter how much money you have. That's an internal choice you can make, whether there's a dime in the bank account or 10 million.
Yeah. And it's the same when it comes to losing weight, right? I was once in the gym and I'm on the rowing machine. I'm just giving her. And this guy that I knew, I worked at the gym, and this guy comes up and he's just like, you know, you can't hate it away, right? And I looked at him and I was like, in my head, I'm like, how'd you read my mind? He didn't know me that well, and he had purely just observed me, and he told me this story about how he was really fit at one point, and then he got out of shape, and then he tried to get back into shape, and it wasn't working, or it started to work, but it didn't count, because you've got to love yourself where you're at, and then the results, they don't really matter. They're just a bonus on top. And
Yeah.
I have had this experience in every part of my life over and over again, is that you need to be happy where you're at, and then everything else just becomes a bonus. I had a coach one day, and she's like, at the end of the day, if you are able to know 100% that if you were sitting on the side of the street and you had lost absolutely everything and it was just you and you had nothing, that you could still be happy because you loved yourself, then you're still winning. But if losing all those things means you lose yourself in the process, because those things are how you measure yourself, then none of those things actually matter when you have them. So you've got to celebrate everything that you have right now. And again, back to India. India is the happiest country in the world, and yet is also the poorest country in the world, because the people of India celebrate life, no matter what the experience is that they're having. And then everything else is a bonus.
I think that's the key, is falling in love with who we are on a moment-to-moment basis, and being able to celebrate the achievements that we have along the way. I think that's part of falling more and more in love with who you are. And when you can figure that out, everything else will flow smoother for you, and bumps in the road won't matter as much because you're grounded in who you are. And it's not easy. It's so simple, but it's not easy, especially with the influence of our culture on us from the outside in. Marketing is designed to make you feel like you need things. Well, how do you feel like you need things? Because you don't feel like you're enough. You don't feel like you have enough. You feel like you're inadequate. And it really takes rejecting the messages that come in from around us that we are constantly bombarded with. This goes back to unsubscribing that we talked about a number of episodes ago. You have to be able to unsubscribe from the conventional stuff in order to be able to get to the point where you can fall in love with yourself and celebrate those milestones as they happen, regardless of where else you have to go.
Yeah. And I think that is a great way to finish this up and sum that up. I actually really didn't think, when we started talking about celebration, it was purely like, we're going to celebrate the fact that we hit 50 episodes. And as we started talking about it, it's like, wow, this topic is deep. It's an onion.
It's in the weeds.
It's totally in the weeds. This conversation has really helped me and reminded me of all of those extra places and just the wisdom that I have been given along the way that I may not have been using, because I've been stuck in the weeds in certain places and not looking at all of the, falling in love. I love that. That's, I think the key of this is just falling in love with being where we are. And this is a journey. This is the human experience. And if we can be in love with every moment of it. My friend gave me a print of a saying, and I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but be in love with your life, every minute of it. Yeah. And I think that's really, like, celebrate every moment that you can.
Simple, not easy, but worth it.
Yeah, there is no yeah but.
Yeah.
All right, this has been amazing. I am Natasha Lockey. I am a performance-based life and mountain bike coach. I'm all about helping you rewire your brain so that you can experience joy and have a lot of fun, because if we're not having fun, we're doing it wrong. You can find me on Instagram at Betty Gohard. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn, Natasha Lockey. Our podcast is Riding in the Weeds. We are at ridingintheweeds.com, Instagram, Facebook, and all of the places. If you are listening, please write us a review. Please tell us what you think of our podcast, and let us know if there is something that you would like us to dive into and chat about. If you're stuck in the weeds, let us help you, because we've experienced a lot of stuff. We've definitely been there. All right, what about you, Ginny?
Yeah, I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are finding yourself that you are not celebrating your relationship with your pet as much as you would like, then let me know and we can connect together and find out a little bit more from your pet about how life could be celebrated better together. So let me know, hit me up, soulpetconnections.com, or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under the same handle. So again, thank you so much for being with us today. We are sending you all the love and celebrating you wherever you are. So we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us. I love that. Celebrating you. Have a great day.
Bye.